Factions are some of the most prominent pieces in the story of Azur Lane, its designs, and how some of the ship girls act. The Eagle Union, Royal Navy, Sakura Empire, Iron Blood, Northern Parliament, Dragon Empery, Sardegna Empire, Iris Libre, and Vichya Dominion all have what I like to call sub-factions within them. A common design theme that can be found amongst some ships within these factions, whether acknowledged by the game itself or not. They may range from obvious to not so obvious, and may even span different factions. Whether it be maids, foxes, or a class of ship, Azur Lane has many choices. This video will look at the different designs of the sub-factions as well as the ship girls within them, and discuss the less prominently shown within the game or ones that aren't recognized by it, starting with the more obvious sub-factions and then moving on to the less obvious ones. If these sub-factions have hierarchies, those will be displayed as well, either how they're described in game or what I believe they are to be if there is no canon hierarchy. This video is mainly for fun, and to discuss the different sub-factions, so don't get your panties in a twist if I miss what you think is a faction or a character from a sub-faction. If I do legitimately miss one, let me know respectfully down in the comments. If you're rude, I'll think you're a dick, and I'll ignore you. It's also a piece of fiction, and no one likes a jackass who corrects people all the time. Also, you, Reddit user HunterAce94, if you're gonna take a screenshot of my video and post it to Reddit again, at least provide a fucking source to the video. The Royal Navy has the most prominent, noticeable, and to my knowledge, canon sub-factions in Azur Lane, with the Royal Maid Corps, Royal Knights, and the Royal Family being the most well-known. We begin at the top of the food chain, at the Royal Family, which mainly consists of the Queen Elizabeth class of battleship, those being Queen Elizabeth, Valiant, and Warspite. Queen Elizabeth is, unsurprisingly, the leader of the Royal Navy as she is the queen of it, with Valiant being the heir apparent and Warspite as Esquire of the Body or the personal guard of Elizabeth, as she has no interest in ruling. According to one or some of Exeter's lines, she and presumably York are members of the royal family in some capacity, though I'd like to believe they are not part of the main royal family, instead one of the offshoots. Under the control of the royal family are the Royal Knights, mostly consisting of King George V class of battleship. They're quite easily denoted with their formal dress uniforms, mainly their red coat, gold epaulets, and white shirt. King George V is the Knight Commander of the Royal Knights, with the rest of the class, Duke of York, Howe, Prince of Wales, and technically Vanguard, Bologna of the Bologna subclass, Southampton of the Southampton subclass, Revenge of the Revenge class, and potentially Monarch. I would like to honorably mention Swiftsure, Nelson, Grenville, and Eagle as potentially part of the Royal Knights due to how they dress. The nobles are kind of an all-encompassing category for ships that look like they're of higher status, usually through how they speak, dress, or carry themselves. Some examples are the Illustrious class, Nelson class, Admiral class, Renowned class, Arethusa class, and Unicorn class. Their long flowing dresses, penchant for tea parties, especially ones that involve the royal family, and overall upper class personality shows that they're part of the nobility. This section is what I like to call the servant section, as they don't really fall into any other encompassing faction, but do serve the royal family in some way or another. Ark Royal and Hunter are the Royal Hunters, Juno and Jervis are Royal Medical Staff, Erebus, Terror, and Vampire are Morticians and or Gravekeepers, Cheshire is the Royal Cat, and finally Matchless and Musketeer are Trainers. Finally, we have the Royal Maid Corps, who are easily identifiable with their maid uniforms, frilly dresses, and ruffled headpiece. The head maid of the Royal Maids is Belfast, though surprisingly she's not the namesake of her class, which goes to Edinburgh, who strives to be as good or better than Belfast. The rest of the town class of light cruisers, including the Edinburgh, Gloucester, and Southampton subclasses, all wear maid uniforms of some sort. The only exception to that is Southampton, who transferred from the Royal Maids to the Royal Knights. Other maid-class ships are the Colossus class with wings, Dido class with warrior maids, Emerald class, Kent subclass, and the Ceres class. For the Royal Navy, the power structure should look like this when it comes to the different sub-factions within it, with the royal family at the top and the royal maids and servants at the bottom. The ones not considered can be considered just normal soldiers or citizens. For the Eagle Union, there's not that many sub-factions, ignoring the obvious design similarities or consistencies when it comes to ship girls of a similar class, but there are some official ones to be found. Though there's only a small amount, I believe it's enough to warrant their own subfaction, the Idols. Saratoga, San Diego, Lexington, and Botch. Most, if not all, talk about how they're idols, how popular they are or consider themselves to be, with the usual inclusion of some microphone within their design. Their stardom either originates from being in a movie, like Bach, or their singing abilities. The indigenous ships are also small in number, but easily recognized, being mainly composed of the South Dakota-class battleships Alabama, South Dakota, Massachusetts, the New Orleans-class cruiser Minneapolis, and Portland-class cruiser Indianapolis. They either wear traditional indigenous dress, wear some sort of face paint, or both. They also have a tendency to have lighter colored hair and darker skin, with South Dakota and technically Indianapolis being an exception. Gyru-themed shipgirls appear sporadically throughout the Eagle Union, with the notables being San Francisco, Archerfish, Hazelwood, and Marblehead. They tend to have a darker tan complexion with interesting hair, and a smug or bubble attitude. San Francisco is an exception to complexion, but her personality fits. Marblehead is a prime example of a Gyru, with the whole 9 yards being there in her design and attitude. Finally, we have the cowboys, or cowgirls if you will. Frill jackets and cowboy hats are the main design features of them, with the Nevada-class battleships and Hornet being the main 3 of the bunch. The Nevada class have a ton of frills in their designs, with the frills multiplying further in their retrofit, while Hornet wears a 10-gallon hat. Though there's no hierarchical structure outside of the uniformed ships, it is quite interesting to see how diverse the subfactions of the Eagle Union are. But there are usually design similarities, as mentioned before, within the different classes for the Eagle Union, such as the Essex-class carriers, Gato-class submarines, and the Northampton and Tennessee-class cruisers. The Sakura Empire has the predominant theme of all the shipgirls having some sort of animalistic or demonic feature, such as a cat, rabbit, dog, fox, and wolf ears or tails, and demonic horns. Really, these can classify the different Sakura shipgirls into different subfactions based on what type of animal they are, but that's too generic and too much in my opinion. Shrine maidens, or priestesses in general, are one of the main themes within the Sakura Empire, with notable classes such as the Fuso-class aviation battleships, Shoho-class carriers, Nagato-class battleships, Yura, Mikuma, Chitose, and Chiyoda. All wear something similar to the traditional dress of a shrine maiden, a traditional Japanese dress, have some sort of shrine maiden tool, or are some self-professed shrine maiden. There is a noticeable trend towards aviation-related ships being shrine maidens, but not all of them. Ninjas are another staple of popular Japanese culture, and much like ninjas in true Japanese history, there aren't that many within the Sakura Empire. Kuroshio, Oyashio, Akatsuki, and Kirishima are the main ninjas of the subfaction. Kirishima exemplifies the ninja design with a mask over the mouth, scar over the eye, ninja pose, and fishnet body stockings. Finally, there's the ship divisions and combined fleet subfactions, which are just the different divisions of the ships that there were in the Pacific Theater of World War II. From what I can tell, the divisions seem to be their formations before the attack on Pearl Harbor, at least for the carriers, with the 1st, 2nd, and 5th carrier divisions being the main ones with unique skills. As for the other divisions, there's the 6th and 8th destroyer divisions and the 2nd torpedo squadron. I am aware that there are some others, but I'd be here all day listing them out. I can't really find much on the 4th combined fleet either. So, an unsurprising focus on the popularly known Japanese culture for the Japanese faction, with the head shrine maidens at the top and the more powerful and well-known subfactions being directly under them. There is also a lot of traditional Japanese dress and Japanese school uniforms, but I feel that they don't really warrant their own subfaction. The Iron and Blood and their real-life counterpart, Germany, are well known for their technological advancements and prowess, which can be seen not only in their rigging, which has been shown to be harshly sentient due to the siren technology in it, but also in their modifications to themselves, with an odd focus on arms and hands. Friedrich the Gross, Rune, Admiral Graf Spee, Deutschland, Z-24, and Z-25 are the particular ships with these modifications, with Spee and Z-24 having hands as big as their torsos, while the others have smaller hands. Interestingly, Z-25 only has one mechanical hand. Moving on to more minor factions, we have what I like to call the Sakura Killers for the Dragon Empery. Ning and Pinghai and Yat-sen all have a skill that allows them to deal more damage against Sakura Empire units, while it is absent from other Dragon Empery ships. Ironically enough, all three were converted to the Ioshima, Yasoshima, and the Atada in the Japanese Navy after they were salvaged, perhaps giving them some insight to the weakness of the Japanese Navy. Iris Libre and Vichya Dominion have the Zealots of the Holy Iris, or the very religious ships of France. At the top, we have the Cardinal, Richelieu, the leader of the Faith of the Holy Iris. Brest, presumably, is the embodiment of the Holy Spirit and may be some sort of oracle or priestess for the Holy Iris. Under the Cardinal's command are the Holy Knights or Knights Templar, which consists of Champagne, Saint-Louis, Jean d'Arc, Malbrise, Azuri, L'Andampre, and La Mars. Also known is La Impentatre, who is a magician, though she tries to keep it hidden, as to, I assume, make sure she isn't tried for witchcraft. Northern Parliament doesn't have any discernible sub-factions from what I can tell, outside of maybe dying from exposure due to their massive exposed breasts and the lack of properly wearing winter clothing, and maybe ships from other countries such as Tallinn. But those don't really have much traction when it comes to sub-factions, more so just design and facts about them ships. Sorry to all 5 of the Sardegna Empire fans, but I couldn't find much in the way of sub-factions for Italy. I tried thinking of some, but I couldn't really come up with much outside of a few very basic ones, and I don't really consider to be sub-factions whatsoever. Those being the Italian Alps, consisting of the busty shipgirls like Zara and Vittorio, the famous peoples, which are named after famous Italians like Leonardo da Vinci and Giulio Cesare, and military ranks, which is due to most of the shipgirls being in some sort of military uniform. But that isn't unique to Italy, as other factions such as the Eagle Union and Ironblood also wear military uniforms. Finally, we reach the universal sub-factions, or sub-factions that aren't limited to one faction or another. Nurses, such as Vestal, Jervis, and Juno, all 3 have nurses' attire or mention healing somewhere within their voice lines, with Vestal and Jervis being the more obvious of the 3. Teachers can be seen throughout the different home screens in Azur Lane, with Colne, Langley, and Amazon being found in the classroom and lecture hall, along with some other ships. Langley especially fits into the teacher role with her attire. Z23 can also be considered either a teacher or an assistant to the teacher based on her attitude and the slow ahead manga/anime. She also has a skin for it. In many of the different factions, there's smaller child versions of the larger ships. Cleve Lad, Lena, Little Sandy, Little Enterprise, Little Belle, Little Cheshire, Little Illustrious, Little Renown, Akagi-chan, Amagi-chan, Hae-chan, Little Prince Eugen, and Little Spee are all child versions of the ships they share names with some of the community believing that they're the children of those ships and the commander, when I believe there are actually alternate universe versions like the Ashes or Meta ships. I believe it's mentioned somewhere in the story. Shopkeepers are another small but notable sub-faction made up of Akashi and Shiranui. Akashi mainly handles gems and real-world cash purchases, while Shiranui handles in-game currency and item purchases. Akashi also slots in to the next category. Inventors. There are many inventors within Azur Lane, notably Ingram, Akashi, Yubari, Prince Adalbert, Subraz Itleni, and Leonardo da Vinci. All are depicted as inventors, genius or not, and quite often making new gadgets either for themselves or for the rest of the fleet. Akashi is the one seen most often inventing things for either the commander or other ships, such as keeping other ships at bay with a fake commander video. The Dream Team, or chronic sleepers of Azur Lane, are always found either tired or sleeping, and include Nicholas, Laffy, Shinano, Lamalin, and Impero. Shinano's dreams are interesting in the fact that they give views into either alternate universes or into the future, which is probably why she's asleep so much and so often. The others, I think, are just lazy. And finally, we have pranksters, which are pretty self-explanatory. Shipgirls that enjoy pulling pranks on others, especially the commander. Albacore, Saratoga, Sims, Abercrombie, Eskimo, and Elb. All are self-proclaimed pranksters and enjoy pranking others or the commander on a regular basis. Thank you for watching. Please follow me on Twitter for updates and pop by my streams as I've gotten into streaming again. Also check out my other Azur Lane and Arknights videos as well. The next video will be the last in this long-form series, with the topic being, is there power creep in Arknights? I personally don't think so.